Hi guys, today I'm going to show you how I make my gluten-free peach crumble pie. It's perfect for the last of those perfect summer peaches. Using my all butter flaky gluten-free pie crust as the base, this pie is filled with juicy tender peaches and adorned with a brown sugar cinnamon crumble that's crunchy and crumbly and so good. So you get all kinds of texture in one bite. So let's get into it and I'll show you how to make it. If you haven't made my gluten-free pie crust yet, now is the time to give it a shot. It is so easy to make, y'all, and it is extremely easy to work with. I'll leave a link for the video above. I made this one earlier, and the recipe actually makes 2 pie crust, but we'll only need 1 for this pie, and there are plenty of other one crust pie recipes on my blog to use up that other pie crust. I'm just going to roll this out into a large round that's big enough to fill my pie plate. And my pie plate is about 8 to 9 inches. I'm not quite sure, but it's around that normal pie plate size. And I just keep moving it around and flouring it as I need to until I get that proper size that I need. Okay, now I'm going to use my rolling pin and transfer it right into my pie plate. That's one of those old techniques from our grandmothers that they used to use. And it works just as good with this gluten-free pie crust. You will never know this pie crust is gluten-free. And I like to use my kitchen shears, actually. You can use a paring knife or whatever, but I like to use kitchen shears to just trim off too much of that excess. But I still want to leave a little bit extra along the sides so then I can fold it under and make a nice crimped edge. Okay, I'll just crimp this with floured fingers. You can crimp it however you'd like. There's no right or wrong here. And then I'm going to put this in the fridge for about 15 to 20 minutes or so until it's nice and firm. Now I'll go ahead and prepare my peaches to be peeled. And this is the best way that I've found to peel peaches. They need to be slightly ripe for this to work. If they're not, no matter how much you try, those skins are not going to slide off. So I'm going to start by taking a paring knife and I'm just going to cut an X into the blossom end of each of my peaches. I've got water boiling on my stove, and I'm just going to drop in about 4 peaches at a time and set a timer for 20 seconds and let them blanch in there for 20 seconds. Then I'll remove them and I'll place them right into an ice water bath. And this is just to stop that cooking process so they don't overcook, because we don't actually want to cook them right now. We just want those skins to slide right off. Okay, I'll do the rest of these. And then see how easy the skins slide right off. It is such an easy process, y'all. I used to hate dealing with peaches in the past. And although I love peaches, I don't like the skins of peaches. And I'd never bother making anything with peaches because I just couldn't figure out how to get the darn skins off easily. Now, if you are one of those people who love the peach skins and don't find a problem with it being in your pie, then by all means, don't worry about doing the peeling the peaches and just go to the next step in this recipe. It's been about 20 minutes or so, so I'll go ahead and take my pie crust out of the fridge. I've got a sheet of parchment paper that I'm just going to crumple up here so it's easier to fit in there. And I'm just going to prick it all over with a fork on the bottom and the sides. And this is just to prevent it from puffing up too much, because this is a very puffy and flaky pie crust that it will puff up if you don't do this step. And some people might ask me, do you have to par bake it? No, you don't, but this ensures a nice crisp crust and not a soggy bottom. So I'll place my parchment in there and get it good and snug in all the corners. And I'll pour my rice in. This is what I've been using for the past like 6 to 8 months, but you can also use store-bought pie weights or dried beans or even sugar. The sugar will get nice and toasted, and then you can cool it down and use it again in any of your recipes. Make sure that you have enough pie weights or whatever you're using to get completely to the top. I've got my oven preheated to 425 Fahrenheit, and I'm just going to put this in there for about 12 to 15 minutes or until the edges are slightly golden brown. Then I'll very carefully grab the parchment with the rice, and I'm going to gently lift this out and just set it aside to cool. If there are any puffy edges, you can go back around with the fork and prick them again. And then I'll put this back in the oven for just about 3 to 4 minutes or so, just until the bottom looks less shiny and the crust is firm. I don't know if you can see this here, but the inner surface looks dried out, not fully baked, but dried out enough so that when we put the juicy fruit in, we won't have a soggy bottom. Okay, we'll let that cool completely while we make the crumble topping. In a medium bowl, I have 3/4 of a cup or 105 grams of Kim's gluten-free all-purpose flour blend, a half a cup or 100 grams of brown sugar, and 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. And I'll just grab that same fork that I used to prick the crust and toss this together, breaking up any of those brown sugar lumps. I'll pour in 5 tablespoons or 71 grams of melted butter and work that through with the fork as well. Then I'm going to go in there with my hand to make sure that everything is well mixed and it clumps up like this, almost like cookie dough. Okay, I'll slide this into the fridge while I get the filling ready. I've already pitted and cut all of my peaches into chunks. These are about 1 inch in size, and I put them in the same bowl I used for the ice bath, so less dirtying of dishes, right? Y'all know how I hate dirtying a bunch of dishes. I've got this on my scale, and I'm just going to scale out some brown sugar. This is 100 grams or a half a cup of brown sugar. Now, if your peaches aren't that sweet, make sure you taste them before you continue, because if they're not that sweet, go for about 3/4 cup or 150 grams. These peaches are super sweet, so they don't need much sugar. They're also super juicy, so I'm actually adding 3/4 cup or 90 grams of tapioca starch. I would normally add just a half a cup or 60 grams, but I know this pie filling is going to be overly juicy, so I need a little more tapioca to thicken it up nicely. Okay, this is about 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and then I also like to add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt to just balance out all the sweetness. Alrighty, I'll just mix this all up. And I'll carefully spoon it into my cooled par-baked crust. And I took my crumble out of the fridge already, so there are all different sized chunks in here, and I'll just sprinkle them all over the top. I'll break up any larger pieces with my fingers, and for the real crumbly bits, I'll take my hand and kind of squeeze it so that some of them will stay together a little more. And I'm going to slide this on a sheet tray and bake it at 375 for 45 to 50 minutes. Now, y'all, you are supposed to let this cool down considerably before slicing, but as you can see, I couldn't wait. I have a problem with waiting until my pies are completely cool to get nice clean slices, but that's okay because it all tastes fantastic anyway. There's the flaky pie crust on the bottom, no soggy bottoms. There's those juicy peaches that are just perfectly ripe, and then the crunchy crumbly crust on top. Enjoy.